Hi there. So this is a different variation of the masks. I've actually knocked out a couple tonight for my friend. They're not perfect. I'm kind of in a hurry to get them to her. But I saved the last one for this. They are the accordion style. I modified another tutorial, and I'll actually link that tutorial in just a minute whenever I get this all the way done. So in her tutorial, she did a couple of 7x9 squares and then a more narrow piece of flannel down the center. But I actually took mine all the way out here rather than stopping it right around there. About 1.5 inches wider, if I'm remembering correctly from hers. I just did the backs all the same so I could just really whip them out really fast. I kind of did it production line style. I really liked the way she recommended doing the corner with the elastics. So that's what I'm gonna show on that. It's what I've done on all of these. I've only had one or two that I just kind of messed up on. You can kind of see right there it went on a funky angle, but that's okay. These aren't for sale. These are made out of love. So what you're gonna need is something to cut on. You can definitely do this free-handed with just regular old scissors and just snip, snip, snip. You can use a rotary cutter. That's where you'll need a surface like this. But what you want is 2 7x9 pieces of fabric, an outside and an inside. They can be the same. I know some people prefer to have it 2 different prints so they can really tell which is which, to prevent putting a dirty or possibly contaminated side towards their face. So there's that. And then I've got this cut the 7-inch width, but then I've got it 6.5 here so that it definitely gives us plenty of seam allowance on each side. So you may like doing it free-handed with a piece of paper or a ruler. I used this. It's 8 inches wide, so I just lined up my edge right there. And then I used this 9-inch section here. It was super easy and just zipped it right up. So anyways, what we're going to start with now is this. You can definitely pin this, but if you've got enough experience or you're just comfortable with it, we're going to start here. We're going to sew that right there, just right about there. And I apologize for my fingernails, y'all. I got my nails done for the first time in years, literally a week before this pandemic hit. Oh yeah, sorry, 2 7-inch elastics also. So I'm going to sew this here, and then we will attach this like that. Start, go here, just giving you a rundown really quickly. And then her suggestion was kind of tuck it in there, and then when you get to that corner, you're going that way anyways. And it was so easy. Some people will also tuck this in or pin this to about right there. Allow yourself some seam allowance. You can do it that way too, but I really liked it in the corners because it was really easy to turn the mask right side out. So that's what we need to get started. And now we're going to start sewing. All right, so I've got this ready to go. I'm just going to use my needle in the center position here and use this line right here as my guide for this particular part. I'm not super worried with much back spacing here, or back stitching. Haven't done this in a bit, other than a few masks I've done lately. Because this is actually going to be included in the beginning and the end will be in our seam allowance in just a bit. So I've got this kind of centered in, centered on the middle of that piece of 7x9 fabric. So I'm just going to do that. Go back around. Okay, that's it for that step. So now I'm going to pin my right sides together with my other material. Okay, I've got this pinned just kind of loosely around, not too crazy, just because it's not really that difficult of a project. Now for this, I am going to scooch my needle over to the left position because she does have a little bit smaller face than I do. If I make one of these for me, I will go back to the center and reduce my seam allowance here, but she does have a smaller face, so I want to make this fit just a little smaller. And again, I'm really embarrassed of my fingernails, but until all this kind of blows over a little bit, I can't really do anything about it. Okay, so the trick that the other tutorial pointed out was the way the elastic goes in the corner. I'm gonna lift this up here, and we're gonna slip this in. We're gonna go at this angle here. She did it so much better than I did because she's got more practice. So I just want to catch that a little bit. I don't want to go all the way to the edge because I don't want my seams to kind of stick out too far. So I'll bring it over here. Got it lined back up right there. And I'm going to back stitch over that. I want to lay this down flat. If it's curled up, it might end up getting twisted. Again, this is not perfect. Okay, so now we're going to grab that little tail right there. Pull it over here. And we're going to do that the rest of the way around. Do it on this corner and this corner. And when we get all the way to here, we're going to leave about 1.5 inches opening right there. Make sure in backspace so that it doesn't end up pulling your threads apart when you turn this right side out. All right, we're at the end here. We're going to go about 1.5 inches. You could do more, it's just a little bit bigger gap whenever. Okay, that's more like 2 inches, but that's okay. So we've got that. We're gonna trim the corners now. That creaking that you hear in the background, that's my cup turner. I've got some cups in the works. So we're just gonna trim these so the corners don't end up so bulky whenever we turn it. I don't wanna get it too close because I'm paranoid of it pulling the threads, but you definitely want to trim a good amount of the bulk. You don't have to worry about trimming all of this at all. So now we are going to turn this right side out. The easiest way for me is to get my finger in there, work all the way there, grab a corner, and pull it through. If your hole is too small, this actually is quite trickier because you're having to shove it through a much smaller space. So just tuck and push out all those corners. So her little hack allows that to go at a great and convenient angle. I got this one a little off, but not too bad. The rest of them look good. So what I'm going to do is kind of roll these to where the seam is a little flatter. Because I have the flannel in there, it's a little poofier. So you can, it's called finger press it like that. I typically will go ahead and throw a pin right there just to kind of hold that spot flat. It's my own personal preference. You don't have to do that, obviously. And then kind of roll the seams over here too to kind of flatten these out. And again, kind of finger press it there. Just kind of creases it. can see that little hole there. That's all right. We're gonna pin that just so that it can be super obvious where that opening is. Okay, now for the pleats. You can eyeball this. Some people will fold it in half and then in half again to put little creases in it. But you can actually just eyeball it. About 1/3 of the way down, just kind of pinch it and fold it up. Just like that. Kind of get an idea there. So I'm going to pin these little spots. This is much easier when you're not trying to knock the camera over. So just like that. Okay, so we've got that. Looks pretty even. Nope, it doesn't. Okay, now it looks pretty good. In a minute, I'll do this again, but for now, I like to just kind of overlap that, make sure it's pretty close. It's okay if it's off by just a teeny bit. All right, so now we're gonna do that right here and fold that up too. I don't want it like literally even with that bottom. I kind of pinched it a little too high, but about like that. Kind of line that up with the back of that pleat right there. Okay, so there's that. So now we're going to do the same thing over here. Just kind of eyeballing it based on what I just kind of creased it a little. Just like that. All right, so that is the pleating. So I'm just gonna fold it and kind of get an idea on how badly I did that. See how bad that is? No biggie. So what I did was I pulled that piece up. Kind of make that a little bit better. Yeah, that's better. Those pleats are pretty good now. So now what we'll do is stitch, top stitch all the way around. I like to start in the corner just so it's a little less visible, especially when it's off the side of the face. Okay, so we're gonna put our needle back to the center. I'm gonna start right here in the corner. And sometimes when it's a bulky corner, depending on the machine, sometimes it takes a minute to grab. It might need a little persuasion. Sometimes I have to push it. There we go. So once again, I'm using this little clear spot right here as my guide. And I want to make this as flat as possible. Right about there. Lift that, rotate it 90 degrees, and continue. So I know that these are not N95 filtered. Right now, that's not really an option for most of us. I did make some others. My other tutorial had a little opening so that you could put a filter of some sort in there. For the ones that we're using for the office, we actually cut up a Filtrete air filter that had the virus filtering level. In no way do we feel like this is a replacement, but when you work in healthcare and you don't really have access to everything else that you need, it's better than nothing. These would also be great for people with allergies. I actually made my daughter one of the others and one of this because she loves to play outside, but her allergies are so bad and she has asthma. So it's good for just kind of general wear. You can make these longer if you need to. You can make this a little wider for a wider face. The one I made for my daughter was 7 inches instead of 9 inches. She's really petite and 12, so see, forgot to pull that one. So it's just an option out there for better than nothing. I feel like the CDC is constantly changing their recommendations. Wanted to be stuck again. I just like to kind of backtrack over. It's not cooperating. It's a really old machine, so it's not playing nice. So now we just snip our threads, and that is it. We've got this here. It expands. It's washable. The only disadvantage is it doesn't have the wire so that you can really form it around your nose like the other ones do. That would have made this not very wash and wear friendly. But now she has 5 of them, so she can work her week and wash them on the weekends, or wash them every night if she needs to change between her patients. So hopefully that's helpful. I know that my sewing tutorials aren't perfect. I mean, my Tumblr tutorials aren't anywhere near perfect either. So that's a reality that I have come to terms with long ago. So if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to comment. I am going to link the tutorial that I watched to get the majority, pretty much the whole meat of this. I just made the modification on the insert here myself. Everything else was pretty much exactly what she did, which was really similar to some other tutorials as well. But hers was super easy to follow. So anyways, I'll link that. And then, like I said, I'm not perfect. I apologize if I screwed up anything, but you guys have a good one and stay safe out there.